What has this little plant and that mountain got in common? Well, if you want to find out, you stay with me.
Hello, it's Frank again. I've been with you all the way. Imagination is fun when it's free to run. Come on, we paint this a brand new day. Simply painting with Frank today.
Welcome everyone to my new series of Simply Painting. In this series we're going to travel around Ireland and we're going to visit Wales. Now, what was the association between the little plant and the mountain behind me? Well, let me tell you, it was the shamrock. And this is CroaghPatrick. It's 2,500 feet high, and they say that in the year 440, St. Patrick climbed this mountain and spent 40 days and 40 nights meditating. He must have been frozen. Anyway, when they built the church to commemorate it in the early 1900s, when they were digging out the foundations, they found the ruins of an old church or chapel which dated back some 3,500 years, where the Druids used this very same mountain as a place of religion. Anyway, we're here to paint it, and I thought this should be a nice place to start. So we're going to make a sketch, which I'll do. Then we're going to go back to my studio, where you'll join me, and we're going to paint CroaghPatrick. And I promise you, anybody can do it. I have never had a failure. So why don't you join me? Hello everyone, and welcome. Well, a new series, what? I'm looking forward to it. And I'm not going to tell you where we're going to be this time. Just this time, where you know where we've been to CroaghPatrick, haven't we? Yes, we have. Anyway, before we talk about that at all, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes just telling you about all the materials we're going to use for the whole series. Now, basically, we're going to paint in watercolour, but we've got some surprises in it for you. But to start with, let's talk about the paints. And we've got 8 tubes. And they are lemon yellow, burnt umber, light red, raw sienna, cobalt blue, Payne's grey, alizarin crimson, and ultramarine blue. Don't worry if you haven't got it. We'll go through it again for you. We've got some white gouache, which is a white paint. Right? We use that for little effects and things. Now, we've got some news for you. We've got 4 brushes. That's a little more than we did before. We first of all got the large goat hair Simply Painting brush, which is 1.5 inches. And I'm delighted to introduce you to a new baby brush, a 1/2 inch goat hair. Beside that, we have a number 6 or thereabouts round nylon. That's new. And we have our old pal, the rigger. So we've got 4 brushes. We've got the tray for mixing the paints on. We've got the water for mixing the paints with. We've got some papers and some cloths here to clean the brushes. And last, we've got the paper. Now, the paper is watercolour paper. It's 140 pounds, that's the weight, the thickness. And it measures 14 inches by 10 inches. Therefore, we're painting in landscape, longwise. I've got another little sheet of paper here to doodle on, but you don't need that. You can if you like. OK, that's the paper taken care of. Remember, that's important, though, because without paper, you can't paint properly. You must use watercolour paper. How do we paint? Well, we have a little system, because that's what I teach, really. It's a system. It's a method of showing anybody, I don't care who you are, you can paint if you want to. And it's called Have Some More Fun. That's simple. Or horizon, sky, middle, and foreground. And that's the way we paint the picture. Isn't that simple? Now, having told you all that, and told you that anybody can paint, and even if you haven't got the materials now, grab a pencil and paper and follow this. Let's look at what we did. And here it is. We've got CroaghPatrick. Now, if you remember, it's across a bay. And I did mention, by the way, that there was a church built. Remember that? What I didn't tell you was that that church was built right up on top of the mountain. That's why I didn't visit it. 2,500 feet? No, thank you. Anyway, let's get on with painting it. Let's get the brushes. Let's clear the decks for action. Get the brushes to one side, put the big fella into the water. Get, first of all, out the paints we need to paint the sky. Horizon, sky. But before the sky, let's knock in the horizon, shall we? Yeah, go on. Now, I use a pencil because you can rub it out afterwards. And I usually do this fairly heavily, and I'll tell you why, because you want to see it. You don't have to be quite as heavy as me. You can be quite light about it. But it doesn't matter. You can leave it there if you want. It's called a growth line in painting. Very posh, isn't it? That's the horizon. That's 25% of the thing done. That was quick, wasn't it? And it also completes the drawing, because we're not actually here to draw, we're here to paint. So let's put out the paints we need to start. First of all, we're going to put out some lemon yellow, and we're going to put out some cobalt blue. That's 2 colours. And the third colour we're going to put out for the moment is light red. So we've got 3 colours out. See, we only put the colours out as we need them. No sense in covering the whole place with paint when we don't use it. So we only put it out when we want it. There we are, 3 colours, that's our sky. Next, big brush. Now, skies take 2 minutes to paint, and there's a reason for that. If you take any longer than 2 minutes, they'll start to dry. And then you'll have an effect like trying to paint a door that's half wet with paint. Won't work. Okay, start from the top. You ever heard of Newton's law? Start from the top and it'll run down the page for you. It makes it easier. This is clear water, and we're going to go down to within 1 inch of that horizon line. I'm going to stop an inch from it. And that's my little safety margin. See, if anything goes wrong, then I've got an inch to fix it, haven't I? Of course I have. Now, look at that. We'll see a sheen on the paper, so you'll know then that, of course, it's wet. Now, let's take some of the lemon yellow. Now, that's rather a peculiar thing to start with for the sky, isn't it? Yellow. Wait till you see. And we're just going to put a thin stripe of it right across. You can just see, it just tints the paper. I don't want to put too much on now, otherwise it'd look a bit silly. Just across the page like that. That's enough. Okay, dry. Dry the brush after you've wet it, or clean the brush, or onto the paper like that. Now we come in with the blue. Now we go to the top of the page. So it's just a broad swipe across the bottom. Cobalt blue. Fill your brush up with it. Across the top, starting, and like that. Look. Right across. Now, anything I leave out would be clouds. When we put it in, it's the sky, isn't that right? So down the page we head with this, look. And a couple of little sausages across there. I call them sausages because if you work on the principle that it's thicker at the top, bigger sausages at the top, little sausages at the bottom. Now let's mix some of the blue with the red, and we get a winey colour. Look at it. Oh, that's nice. Yes, I like that. Dee, dee, dee. Now you can enjoy yourself. You can sing, whistle, and all that. I'm well within my 2 minutes still, haven't I? You're probably counting there. But with a big brush, you've no problem with 2 minutes. It's a different thing if you have a little small brush. So use the big one. Don't be tempted with anything else except the big brush to put in the main body of the sky. Now, that's we want to keep it. How are we looking there? Ah, that's looking nice, isn't it? Now what do we do? Well, we've got our old pal, and mine and yours, the hairdryer. Let's give it a blast, and then I'll tell you a little story. Brush back, hairdryer out, and off we go. I think that's enough now. We've given that a really good drying, so it should be fine. Always make sure when you're painting the sky that when you've finished it, you give it a real good drying, because if you don't, you'll have a mess, honestly. And when you've made a mess a couple of times, then you'll get used to not making a mess. Right, let's get on to the mountain. Let's look at it. The mountain is CroaghPatrick, as I said. And it's a letter M, or thereabouts, or a series of letter M's. That's all it is. And to paint the mountain, we're going to use our little brush for the first time. Our baby goat hair. And we're going to use exactly the same colours as we did for the sky, which is cobalt blue and light red, with a tiny little bit of that yellow into it, just a tiny bit. So I'd say you're looking at 75% blue, 20% red, and 5% of the yellow. Mix the whole lot together like that. Make up a nice, enough to do the whole mountain before you don't want to be making up new paint. And where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, I think I got it down. Now, as we're doing this, I'll tell you the story of St. Patrick. You may not know this. Lots of Irishmen don't even know it. Now off we go, starting from whichever side you like, can be left or right, having had a look at the thing, off I go and paint my mountain. Now, don't fooster. Make your mind up and do it. And then fill it in. Look at this, it's gone, oh, it's coming in great. Now, a little bit wobbly there, and then down, and then it goes down like that, doesn't it? And that's St. Patrick. Now, St. Patrick, as we know him, he lived in Wales. He was of Roman origin. And lo and behold, the Irish, they were pretty naughty people in those days. They raided his home, and they grabbed him. And they brought him over here to Ireland, and they sold him as a slave. And his job was, would you believe it, to be a sheep herder on this very mountain. But after a few years, he escaped, and he went back home. But he was taken aback by the Irish. He thought they were rather nice guys after all. So he came back to kind of convert us. And that's why he came back to CroaghPatrick. That's the story, honestly. I'll tell you more in a minute. Let me just dry this first. Ah, it's plenty of drying now. Enough drying done there. Yes, we've over-dried it. Small brush again. Going to mix it up with some lemon yellow and some raw sienna when I put it out, because now I put the rest of the paint out. Raw sienna, and the last one is burnt umber. So I'm going to paint this picture with 5 colours of the 8. The other 3 we haven't used, and we're not going to. Now, let's get some lemon yellow and the raw sienna. Put it together with a tiny little bit of the blue, so we make it kind of a greeny bluey, you know, a nice kind of a... We're getting nearer. It's the bottom of the mountain. Now, a quick look at the painting, and we see, okay, start over here. We can go over the mountain a little bit up the mountain. It's kind of a faintish colour, isn't it? But as I say, he's supposed to have hunted all the snakes out of Ireland, but I'm not too sure about that. I think there's still an odd one knocking round. You know, we all have governments and things. You never know. I'm not, well, maybe he did. But anyway, that's what he's attributed to doing. This was the kind of the reptile type snake, I'm sure he meant. Now, we're going right down here, and we're not going to go below that horizon line. See that? We put in our faintish colour now. The next move is now, let's take some of the burnt umber, because we're down to the sea. This is the sea here. This is Clew Bay. Clew Bay is in County Mayo, in the west of Ireland, isn't it? It's a beautiful bay. There's 365 islands in it, would you believe? That's another piece of information now, which might be. But the funny thing is that every bay in Ireland seems to have 365 islands. I don't know why, maybe. Well, it does sound kind of romantic, doesn't it? Oh, 365. Now, I'm just adding in a little bit of the burnt umber. See that? Just like that. Now, let's look back to our picture again and see how far and where we are. We're right on the horizon line, and we notice on the right-hand side there, there's some rather nice trees. Do you see that? Ignore the houses a minute. We'll tell you about them in a minute. Now, how do we do those trees? Well, we take some green and some yellow. And we take we're still using our smaller brush. Let's dab them in. Look, the corner of the brush. See, that part, the corner. And we put the corner of the brush down like that, and lo and behold, we can paint all the trees. See that? All the trees we like. We'd have a great time doing them. Isn't that quite effective? See, the brush will do the job for you if you let it. Now, I don't think we need any more trees anywhere else, so that's pretty well the trees on that side. Brush back in the water. So now we've got horizon, sky, and middle ground. So what's next? Clew Bay. There it is. Let's do it. Big brush out of the water. Now let's look at it and see it's a fair bit down. So, and what's the colours? Well, the colours again are the same as the sky. Because generally speaking, in watercolour or in any form of painting, the sky is the same as the water. It reflects it. Yeah. Make up a nice mixture. It takes 90% of your time to mix the paint and only 10% to put it on, you know. But it's all fun. It's all great fun. And you can't be thinking of anything else when you're doing this too. What lovely therapy. It really is. If only people would realise it, that you're never lonely with this paintbrush of ours. Now, let's put the brush on and swipe right across there. Let's talk of more action, they say, isn't that right? Now, we need to go again, don't we? Because it's a bit jumpy looking there. And we need once more, so 3 times should do it. Oh, that's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, pretty happy with that now. Now I just give it just one more, just for good luck, as they say, is it? To be sure, to be sure. And one underneath it. And we needn't go the whole way down because we can see we've got a bit of a shore here. I'm happy with that. Brush back, quick dry. Now that's grand. Now remember, when you're drying, just keep the dryer a little bit away from the paper. Don't put it too near it or it'll blow the paint all over the place on you. Anyway, those of you who might be interested in climbing that mountain, because that's what they do. People go up there to visit that church on top of the mountain. There's one slight snag, though. You have to do it with no shoes on you. Barefoot. Yeah. They were a bit annoyed when I said, well, I don't mind going up barefoot, but can I wear my shoes? Doesn't make sense, does it? No, so I didn't do it anyway. I wouldn't be able, he says. Now, what I'm doing is I'm putting in some foreshore here. See it? This is the... As we come closer, the little brush again, just a little bit there. I'm going to get the bigger one out now in a minute. Don't think you're going to get all the work. No way. Now put him back and get out the big fella, because you can see we're getting down here. We're going to mix a little bit of the lemon yellow and make a kind of a sandy colour. Where is it? Ah, there it is. A little bit of raw sienna and a bit of the red. Run it across there. See that? That's quite a nice colour, isn't it? See it? I like it. Isn't that nice? So we take that muddy look off it, he said. I'm always accused by people of saying, oh, he loves that brown colour. Well, I do, but I also like this colour as well. Isn't that right nice? Now let's give that a bit of a dry. Now you needn't dry that too much, because you just want to just get the paint just to set a wee bit, because you're going to add in some other colour into this now. You'll see what I mean. I'm taking some burnt umber and some raw sienna, and I'm just adding in, because as it comes nearer us, of course, it gets slightly darker. See it? This is where the tide goes out. It leaves this kind of muddy basin, if you like, underneath, doesn't it? Yeah, of course it does. Go on. Now I put a little bit of yellow in there, because it does. Now don't let your brush get muddy. Every so often, give it a little dip into the water and clean it up a bit. Now I'm making up some green. That's all. Look, blue, yellow make green, don't they? Yes. And then just put some of that, because this is kind of greeny, seaweedy stuff. You know yeah. So you get it down. Get it on all seashores when the tide goes out, don't you? We can add in some other little bits and pieces now. Now I did mention about St. Patrick that he was a sheep herder. And in fact, many people write to me and say, how do you do sheep, Frank? Now sheep's very important. I mean, we did a bit one time in Wales. And of course there's lots of sheep in Wales as well. And if you paint subjects either in Ireland or Wales, you want to be able to paint sheep. So I'm going to show you how to do sheep in a minute now. Just a little by way of diversion. Let's try it on this piece of doodle paper over here. Now what I want you to do, those of you who have a pencil, a pen, or anything handy, I'm sure you can all do this. Look, I want you to draw a circle for me, and another circle beside it. You can join them all up. Imagine them as a kind of a string of pearls, right? We'll do that many to go on with. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Doesn't matter how many, really. Now, on top of them, I want you to put a little carrot. Those of you who've watched any of my shows will know that I'm very partial to carrots, because I turn them into people. And I'm putting a little kind of carrot on top of each one of these, you know. Take your time on this. Great fun. You can do this now sitting by the fire, sitting in bed. Look, I'm going to put ears on the carrots. And do you see what's beginning to happen? They're turning into a flock of sheep. Now, each sheep has 2 legs. Don't put 4 because you can't see the back 2. There's all our sheep looking at us. See them? You know when they look at you up the road like that? There's your line of sheep. And if you felt like it, draw our famous carrot behind the sheep, because he's chasing them. Leave him with a white face, because he's coming towards you. Fill him in a little bit like that, and we've got a sheep herder, haven't we? I'll put an arm down there and give him one of these. You know these crooks that they grab the sheep? But there we are. St. Patrick had one of those, you know. And there's you got your little flock of sheep walking along the road. Little exercise for you to do. No extra charge. Okay. Now, middle-sized brush, this fella here. Let's make up some brown paint. Mix it with blue and brown, and we get a really dark colour. I'm going to put a few rocks in here. Just, look, just they're on the shore, they're in the sea, they're everywhere, just to break up the picture a little bit. You can take your time in this. Now, I suggest if you're lagging behind, and I have no reason to believe that you are, but if you happen to be, well, just do 1 or 2 rocks. You can put more in later, can't you? Now, let's look. It's a few in there, a few in there, a few in there, a few in there. Now, I've got something else to do here, haven't I? All right. Whitewash. How would you put distant cottages there exactly like in the picture itself? And if we look to the picture for a moment, we'll see that on the right-hand side in the trees there is a nice house, and on the left-hand side there's a couple of cottages. Whitewash, small brush. Now let's just draw a square. Look, a simple square. There it is, one over there. And on the other side, we draw a square here. Usually a good idea to draw your square where it's dark, because it shows up better. This is called counterchange, light against dark. Now, clean the brush off. Get your hairdryer out. Dry these few specks of white. And lo and behold, we've got the bottom of the houses, haven't we? We'll put the roofs on them now. Darkish colour, a little bit darker. Roof. Small brush, roof, 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 roof. That's a bit dark, isn't it? Don't make them too dark, or they look like they're on top of you. You can always lighten them. If they're a bit too dark, you can lighten them. It's much easier. Just use clear water. And a bit of paint you steal off there, you put on the other one over here. Do you see that? And this is all very what they call loose. That's a nice name, isn't it? Loose painting, it means. Tight painting means that you get like that. It's not, it's loose. Now put some windows in this one, and maybe a door, a couple more windows there, and a couple of windows in this fella here, and then it's all very just impressionistic. It's not that we're going to put a roof on this house. If it rains, we've got a bit of problem, haven't we? There we are. Maybe a little rick of turf there. You know, this is all famous rick of turfs. And now that's it. Close your eyes a little bit. Look at them. Oh, they're fine. Now, while we have the whitewash, let me show you something else. Small brush, whitewash equals little ripples in the sea, doesn't it? Look, so we can feed a few in there, a few in there. Oh, this is grand, isn't it? So easy. I hope you're realising that this is actually easy, that painting is not this awful, difficult thing that only the chosen few. If only I could. If I had one wish in this world, it would be that everybody be made try this. And you'll be quite amazed what will happen, because the number of people that write to me every week, hundreds, honestly, hundreds, from all over the world saying, Frank, I never realised it was such great therapy, such great fun. I never realised I could paint. May not be the best in the world just yet, but I'm trying, and it's getting better like any hobby. Now look, I'm just sticking in that, because the water's lapping up on the rocks. Now, I'm going to put a few more rocks in, because it's a bit mean looking here. So let me go back to our rock painting. Now this is a mixture of blue and light red. Look at that, just dab, 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 and off we go. And we've got a couple of things to do more. One is a very dear old friend of mine. It's called Mr. Bird. And he goes up here into this side here, up over CroaghPatrick. We put him in, and then we put him down, and we take up our pen, and down here in the corner, we're going to sign our name. And when we've done that, we're not going to touch the picture anymore, are we? Because otherwise we might mess it up. We're going to put the pen away. We're going to get our little mount, and we're going to put the mount on top of the picture and see what we've got. And I can say we're quite pleased with that. And I have to say to you, for Frank Clark, Slán Leat, which is goodbye in Ireland. And until we meet again, try this out and have some more fun.
For more information, please contact www.simplypainting.com.
Slán Leat, to you, my friends, until we meet again somewhere. Send a card or two, I'll be thinking of you, and I'll be hoping we'll be back real soon. But until then, let me say, my friends, the pleasure was all the way. And if heart's in your mind, I'm not hard to find. Sure, we can do it again one day. Simply painting with Frank today.